Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I'm a little bit late to the topic, but I'm going to discuss it anyway for you guys. So what I want to talk about is season 4 of The Boys. So I've watched The Boys for quite a bit. It's a really sort of a hilarious satirical superhero series that I really think that focuses mostly around the self-awareness of a lot of the characters, whether they work for the boys or the Seven, working for Vought. I actually really think it's great. So I always felt season 1 and 2 were by far my favorites. So season 3, it kind of drifted a little bit, but it wasn't so much of a detriment from season 1 and 2. But then season 4 came out, it had a lot of reactions, I would say, from the audience. So I went into it, and I think it's okay. I definitely think the last episode really made up for it, where they do definitely set this up for season 5, which they did confirm it will be the last season. But I think a lot of the episodes, and certainly a lot of the majority of the series that I've watched, it's definitely kind of fallen off a little bit. Now, for that saying, the show is not terrible. I'm not here to somehow lambast the show in any sort of way, but I just think now with season 4, it's just, I think they got to the point now where I think they've kind of ran out of material to work with, and it's just at the moment it does set itself up for season 5, but I feel like this series just felt more like filler for that. So I think the best way I describe where season 4 starts is essentially now, Billy Butcher has not got much left to live and has an illness, and pretty much where this series starts is that he's being set up with the boys. Now they want to try and get a virus that's strong enough to kill Homelander, and now Homelander's now got very few recruits within the Seven as well, working for Vought, and now recruits Sister Sage and Firecracker to the team. So, and I really do think they get a lot of the characters, like especially new ones like Sister Sage and Firecracker, really showing off their persona pretty well. And I think also what they do well with this series, especially for the last series as well, the last episode of the series, I should say, they get some of the moments pretty well, and I think that's definitely a good compliment. So they get like a lot of the gore pretty well. A lot of, there are some there is some humor in this show, although I do think it's kind of played out a little bit from the previous series as well. So it could have just waned off a little bit for me personally. But I do think they've got those sort of elements right for this series. Now, what I think is the main issue I think that this series has is there is an element that the story is essentially lacking. I do think the storyline kind of lacks substance for it, just to kind of prepare itself for season 5. And the writing at best is okay. I just don't think the writing is as good as the previous episodes were, especially trying to get that sort of dark satirical moments. Like one moment in particular, especially in the last episode, is near the end. They have a shapeshifter who captures Starlight, and the shapeshifter is disguised as Starlight, and the shapeshifter and Huey, try and make out and everything like that, and Starlight engages to Huey and all that stuff, and Huey doesn't know that that wasn't actually Starlight. So when Starlight actually finds out in the last episode, it always gets into this sort of silly dialogue that kind of pukes out essentially, and it doesn't really seem right as well. That Starlight is just having a massive go at Huey without knowing that it wasn't actually her. So parts of the writing in that, particularly in that moment, is pretty questionable. But I think overall, it's just it kind of sits as a pretty okay show. It doesn't do so much as that is terrible from the other seasons, but I think moments, especially in this series, is definitely lacking from the previous series. But I will still state that I am keen for the 5th series when that comes out. I think it could be a good season finale for this show. And I think it probably would be needed because I think kind of prolonging most of the episodes for this series as well, where they want to go into the direction of it, is kind of just going to run out of material at the end of the day. And I felt season 4 kind of felt like it's kind of doing that. So I think for last series for this show would be good, because I think majority of this show is definitely very good, and it does have a thing that it does set off as a dark satirical superhero show. So I think going into the last season it'll be interesting to see what happens. So if I literally had to rate season 4 of The Boys overall, I probably would say the show will get a 6.5 out of 10. I think certainly the last series made up for it. There are some good moments in the episode as well. I think some of the characters' personalities and personas, they do show off pretty well as a self-awareness, but I think as a storyline and a writing perspective, it's not as good as compared to the previous series. So that's kind of how I assess season 4 of The Boys. So hopefully season 5 will be great. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.